back to the North Shore Viking Boys Student Podcast. I'm your host, Editor-in-Chief James Vizza. This is my partner in crime, Cole Kessler.
How you doing, James?
Back at it again with another episode. We've just got the two of us on today. It'll be a nice, that's kind of lean episode, lean and mean. We've got some sports news, some documentaries that have came out. They're kind of serious. Cole has some blow-your-mind facts, apparently, to tell us.
Also, NCAA methods and predictions.
The NCAA, we're going to be advertising the play, and Jack Rosencrans has a special segment that you're going to hear from him later. So I guess I'll start talking about the documentaries now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
straight into it.
over the weekend, I saw Apollo 11, which is it's this thing that Neon Productions and CNN Films put together. Of apparently NASA had just been sitting on this whole pile of film quality film. I mean, like movie, like this stuff looks like
quality stuff that they recorded themselves.
Right. It looks like it was recorded yesterday, 65 millimeter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they made a new documentary out of it, sort of a more bare bones sort of approach to looking at the mission. It's been in theaters recently. It's kind of on and off. I saw it in a theater out in Manhasset. So not exactly an IMAX, but it's a nice big screen that you could really see. The cinematography was amazing.
So they just show clips of footage that they recorded, and then what do they do? Is it like a movie? Like, what is it?
They kind of put it together as a documentary that's like a movie.
Okay. Yeah.
So it doesn't have any narration except by the people who were there. So it's mission control. It's a story of the first moon landing. If you didn't know what Apollo 11 was, back in 1969 during that summer, they had lots of cameras on it, but only now we're getting the full sort of picture of that whole mission, including a lot of stuff that we've never seen before. I've watched a lot of this stuff, and a lot of it just blew me away.
Wow.
I'd never seen this stuff in that kind of detail and quality before of something that was so major. And it's also really well presented. Like, if it had just been okay film, but with the way of presenting it that it would still be great. But
did you see what's his name? Steven Spielberg's World War I documentary, They Shall Not.
It's Peter Jackson.
Oh, Peter Jackson.
Right. Yeah, it's They
Jackson.
Shall Not Grow Old. I
They
saw
Shall
that
Not-
one as well.
Yeah.
So the difference between those two is that one of them was they entirely restored film.
Yeah.
Like, they took it from what was black and white and made it color. This was all the film was already really great color film.
Oh, okay.
And they kind of presented it and they put it together in a way that would make sense for a documentary.
So there was no narrator.
There was no narrator is one of the great parts, that you get what Mission Control was saying at the time, what Walter Cronkite was saying on the news.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really sickly produced stuff about the three astronauts who were on.
Yeah.
So it was, for example, with Neil Armstrong, it was a couple of pictures of him as a kid growing up in the middle of nowhere, Ohio.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, and then film of him flying in Korea, because we kind of forget that the first astronauts were fighter pilots.
Yeah.
And these guys were war heroes.
Yeah.
And then as a test pilot, and then finally being selected as an astronaut. And they do this for Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins. So in all, as a documentary, it really introduces you, for people who are really new to it or have never seen it or whose parents were alive for it, and obviously we weren't, want to relive that kind of thing. It really presents things in a very masterful way. Even the science of it. So the science of putting a dude on a 300-foot rocket filled with 250,000 tons of gas and then shooting that out towards the moon is a lot more difficult and complex than that kind of sounds. And there's a lot more opportunities for things to blow up.
Yeah.
So it really presents it to you in a way that doesn't treat you like a rocket science, but it also doesn't treat you like the cavemen in a Geico commercial. They really put things together in a really slick way and it makes you kind of long for the days back when we looked at the moon and said, yeah, we can go there.
Mhm.
So I'd recommend seeing it if you can. And there's also a new documentary. I haven't finished watching it. Um, it's about Silicon Valley, so a very different type of endeavor.
Yeah.
Um, there was a company called Theranos, and they made a little blood testing computer which they thought was going to change the world, and everybody else thought was
This
going to
this
change
actually
the world.
happened.
Until, yeah, this actually happened. Until it turned out that the entire thing was kind of a fraud.
Wow.
And the lady that was in charge of it, Elizabeth Holmes, who wore a black
Yeah.
turtleneck everywhere to look like Steve Jobs, she had been trying to fool the world
And
for
wait, when
years and
was
years.
this? When was this?
This was like I think it only got revealed like 2 or 3 years ago. Like
Oh,
the
really?
like
So
the
it's pretty
scale of the
recent.
fraud, like it was a multi-billion-dollar company,
Oh, but it
and
took
it
like
all fell
years
apart.
for all the info to come out, kind of.
I
Or did
think
it
I
all
think
fluster in at
basically what
once?
happened was there was an investigative journalist from the Wall Street Journal who didn't buy the BS and then checked out the company and found out that it was all a fraud.
Wow.
And the whole thing came crashing in on this one person. So it's a really I haven't finished the documentary. It's really still in the kind of early stages of what Elizabeth Holmes, that was the founder of this company, of what she thought she was doing and what she wanted other people to think she was doing.
Is she in
Um,
jail?
I think. Let me look that up. Let me
Mhm.
pull a Joe Rogan. Uh, Holmes. She's got like these. She's got gigantic eyes too. I don't
Oh,
know.
really?
Have
Oh
you
yeah,
seen
I
Have you
see
seen
her.
like that Alita Battle Angel movie, or at least the trailers
I've
for
seen,
it?
yeah.
He's got
That
like
that
the
creeps
giant
me
anime
out.
eyes. Like
Yeah.
this is the human version of that.
Yeah, I could see her. Oh, she got the
Is
turtleneck
Elizabeth
on.
Holmes in jail? No, she's okay. She's still facing trial. So this is so fresh that the government's still trying to figure out how to
Oh, so
prosecute
she's
these people.
still under investigation.
Yeah, they're still trying to figure
Okay.
out like how deep it went, but
Yeah.
regardless, it was supposed to be a blood test that could only cost you like $20, and you pop it into an iPod and like into a printer, like not an Apple iPod. I mean like a thing the size of an iPod,
Yeah.
and then you pop it into this larger machine, and it would go from like a tiny little bit of blood. And it was a total fraud, and they didn't know how to make it work, and they were scrambling.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so that's a documentary on HBO. It's called The Inventor. It's and some of it's sort of a comparison between Thomas Edison and Elizabeth Holmes and whatever.
Mhm.
So for a little bit, something a little bit more exciting, a little bit less to do with fraud, we've got some sports news,
Yeah, big news.
which is somewhat insane. So not only did Bryce Harper sign to, where did he sign to?
The Phillies.
To the Phillies for many millions of dollars. Mike Trout signed a contract for
Extension.
$430 million
12
over
years.
12 years
Yeah.
to which team?
Los Angeles.
To Los Angeles.
Angels.
That's his entire career.
Yeah.
That's more than like most professional athletes will ever make ever.
Let me tell you one thing though. He's not gonna stay there for 12 more years. Like he's not gonna get that 430.
Right.
But he's like per year he's still gonna make. That's the biggest contract
That's
I think in
still
sports history. Yeah.
gigantic.
Yeah. Per year he's gonna get.
That's
more,
something on the
more
order
pay
of
than
like
anyone
what,
else.
like $40 million a year still,
Yeah.
which is still like per year gigantic. I think maybe only like 50 million they've ever gone to in any sport. So why are they paying these guys literally like $500 million?
Well, these sports teams, first of all, they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money that they could use. And also, he is the best player right now in baseball. It's like there's a debate over that. Because Bryce Harper is also argued to be the best, but he's one of the best. He's
Right.
definitely in the top three if we're talking about that conversation. And he's definitely I don't know if he's worth 430 million, but he's definitely worth hundreds of millions
He's
of
one of the
dollars.
top guys in the whole
Yeah.
sport. Yeah.
And so, yeah, the money in baseball is a lot different than what you see in like basketball or football. Even though
Right.
there's still a lot of money to be in there, but players get paid a lot more in
Yeah.
ML.
Meanwhile, in a sport in which players kind of aren't paid,
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good segue.
whoopsies, NCAA, we
Yeah.
have basketball.
Yeah.
It's going hard. What are your predictions? What's this? Cole's got this map. He's looking like a NASA rocket
Yeah.
scientist. He's got all these numbers on the board. What is this, Cole? What's going on?
So, um, I the way that I'm pretty much doing my bracketology is the method that I'm using by is going by the number of upsets
Right.
that have occurred in previous years. So in every single tournament, there's maybe an average of 6.1 upsets in the first round alone.
Right.
Right? Average of 6.1. That's how many games is that in the first round? I think I don't know how many games are in the first round, but there's a hell of a lot of upsets.
Right. So
And
maybe
so
like a quarter of all the games are upsets, and it gets
I
smaller
don't know about
by
that much.
maybe not
Like
that much.
10,
Maybe
maybe
like
like
10.
20, like
Okay.
15, 20% of games are an upset. Um, but so that's an average, and then you go to the second round. There's an average of 4 upsets,
Yeah.
3.7, but I'm rounding up to 4. And then the Sweet 16, there's an average of 2, 1.7 again, rounding up. So the strategy that I'm using for my brackets is I'm going by the number method of 6, 4, and 2. 6 representing the first round, the amount of upsets. 4 representing the second round, the amount of upsets, and
And 2.
2 representing
So
the
that's
third.
only so you're going down .1 from the 6, a little bit up from the
Yeah,
from the 3, and a little bit up from
yeah.
1.7.
So I've made
So
about
right.
12 brackets, and the number themes I'm using for them are 752. You know, if you go by the logic I was just talking about,
Right.
752, 642. And I was saying,
So you
if
have to work out not only how many games actually are going to be upsets and
yeah,
what you think is going to happen, it's that also there's a high end basically for what can happen here that we're estimating and a
yeah,
low end. I never thought I'd be talking about statistics on this podcast, but here we are.
yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
an
even
AP
in
stat.
stat. I'm not
Yeah,
even in stat.
really? Yeah, I'm an AP stat and I love it.
Oh
And
my god.
this is just like it.
Cole is,
Um,
if any of you are in a March Madness tournament against Cole, he's going to demolish you. Like Ben Shapiro is going to
yeah,
demolish you with facts and logic.
that's exactly what's gonna happen. Yeah. So if you go towards the later rounds, like the Elite Eight and the Final Four, there's only been there's been about 10 times in the Elite Eight where there's been 0 upsets.
Right.
This is taken from since 1985. That's all that
Yeah.
data I just said. So upsets in the much later rounds are very very rare. So really, if I'm not gonna say this method is gonna get you that far, but using this method could actually get you pretty far just by
Right.
using the power that statistics gives you. Because if you get the upset matches right, because there's plenty of games where an upset's possible,
Yeah.
but it only happens so many times. So if you do the correct amount of upsets and the right teams,
Then you might get the exact perfect
yeah,
combination for
and that
for your
chance is
whole
actually
bracket.
not too low.
Yeah.
Just off of those games.
So let's talk about some individual teams who's going to turn up on the better side of these numbers. You've got UNC written up
So
there.
UNC
That's
is the team
interesting.
I'm riding with for most of the wins that I have. Because when I make a bracket, I don't really think about who's gonna win.
Right.
I just go
You
off
just think of what your chances are for each
Yeah.
of them, where they're going to go.
But if I was to predict one team, it'd
Because I
probably
mean,
be
when you've got
UNC.
UNC, Villanova, Georgetown in there, you kind of have to adjust for teams at some point.
Yeah.
Because
So actually,
I don't know why the Catholics are better at it, but that's how it is.
yeah. Also, teams like Duke,
Right.
and Texas Tech is a very good team. Um, what's another one I could think of? University of Virginia is actually ranked #1 in the country entirely.
Huh.
And last year
So do you
they
think
were
UVA is
the
going to keep it, or
So that's
where
the
are they
thing.
gonna go?
UVA last year ranked #1 again in the country.
Yeah.
First game versus 16 seed UMBC. They beat them by 20 points. It was the first time in history that
UVA
a
got
16
beat.
seed. Yeah, UVA got beat by 20 points by a 16 seed, like a nobody team.
So they're a #1 seed again,
Again,
and they might get demolished by
yeah,
a nobody
that's
seed.
honestly. I know people are making brackets where they lose the first game because
You
I
feel
wouldn't.
like
I wouldn't
you
doubt it
feel like
either.
that's how a 1 seed's literally not supposed to be at all. You
Yeah.
should at least get to like 8, if anything.
Mhm.
I'm rooting on Villanova. Maybe not out of just numerical chance.
They're
even
not
though
that bad.
They're doing
They're-
good.
Yeah.
And also because I like Villanova a lot. But
Yeah, it's a good school.
go Nova. Let's see. Any other anybody you think is going to be really good on that upset margin? Who's going
So
to
yeah, there's
outperform?
a few schools. Villanova, I
Yeah.
think, will definitely make it far. University of Wofford College is
Right.
a school that I don't think you've ever heard of.
I
I
feel
didn't
like
hear
we
of
have
it.
to spell that in the description now.
WOFFORD.
Okay, there we
I
go.
think they
Wofford.
are the dogs. They have a dog as their little guy. What's that called?
A
A
mascot.
mascot.
Yeah,
Yeah, I always
heartbreakingly
forget I
original of
always
them
forget
having
what
a
it's called
dog.
that. And so they're actually a very good team. And
Right.
then Murray State too. Murray State is a team I'm predicting to go pretty far as a low seed.
So who do you think is going to win overall?
So overall, UNC, I think
UNC is going to take it.
in my opinion, most likely to win.
UNC against who at the end?
UNC, I think it's going to come down to either Michigan State or Duke.
Right.
Those teams are probably going to meet. They're in like the same little conference, like there's four
I like to
segments of the
see
bracket.
UNC Duke. That's kind of a
Yeah,
southern showdown that would happen there.
yeah.
So this is shaping up to be a good season. I think if you follow Cole's method, you might be doing well. So we've got Jack Rosenkrantz on. He's got his own entire segment on. It's a very special topic, and we're going to give it over to him, and you're going to be treated to that. So we'll take a quick break.
Hey guys, this is Jack Rosenkrantz. So I want you to picture this. It's a Friday night or Saturday night, and all your friends are hanging out, and you guys decide to watch a movie. But the only problem is that no one can decide what to watch. Um, a lot of people sometimes have trouble deciding what to watch on Netflix. So I'm going to give you 5 great movies that I think everyone, if they haven't seen yet, should try to watch. And these are 5 movies that are definitely something, definitely worth your time watching on a Saturday, Friday night, or any night you want. So the first movie I'm going to talk about is The Good Will Hunting. If you haven't seen this one yet, it's really a great movie. Kind of like a feel-good movie, a little bit of emotional roller coaster. Stars Matt Damon, Robin Williams, both do a great job acting. Ben Affleck also is in it, and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote this movie when they were pretty young, and it won the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. Second movie I'm going to ask you guys if you should definitely check out is The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. This movie features Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. It's another emotional roller coaster, to say the least. Kind of a cool sci-fi movie where they focus a lot on memories and how we perceive memories and dreams. It's really a good, it keeps you engaged. It's got some really cool cinematography, um, and something that I really enjoyed. The third movie that if you haven't seen, you should definitely check out is Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction was, a '90s classic, featuring written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. You've got John Travolta, you've got Samuel Jackson, Bruce Willis. It really is a action movie to its finest, but it features a lot of comedy. Um, Also, something very neat about Pulp Fiction is the chronological order that it follows. It kind of brings you back to different scenes throughout the movie, and by the end you can figure them all out. So that one's also really engaging. It is a little violent, and that's all Quentin Tarantino movies, but to me it's definitely his best movie. Fourth movie is The Departed. Departed is also on Netflix. It's a Scorsese classic. Um, it was the Academy winner for Best Picture, and this movie does a great job developing all the characters throughout the movie. You've got a kind of dualistic relationship between Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon. One of them is an undercover cop, and the other one is a cop who is a rat. So that's also a really great movie. It features Jack Nicholson, who does a great job playing a mob boss. The ending was definitely not my favorite, but the movie as a whole is pretty entertaining. It's a little violent too, but overall entertaining. And finally, I would recommend watching The Truman Show if you haven't yet. Truman Show is pretty. It was a pretty entertaining movie. It's got a kind of neat storyline of a TV show, a reality TV show that the person doesn't really know they're in, and um, it's pretty neat. I watched it when I was young, and I really liked it. I came back and watched it again, and I liked it even more. It's got some hidden meanings in it, and that features Jim Carrey, Ed Harris, and a few other pretty good actors. So, The Truman Show, The Departed, Pulp Fiction, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Good Will Hunting, all on Netflix, all movies that you should watch. Of course, Netflix has a lot of other great movies. Some of them, are really fantastic movies, but they're not something that you would like to probably watch with your friends on a Friday or Saturday. I mean, for example, Netflix has got Schindler's List on it, The Graduate, No Country for Old Men. Those three movies are great movies, and maybe if you have some time to, watch a movie on your own, or you're just trying to see something really engaging, um, really well crafted, those three and the five that I mentioned before will really do the job. So I hope that helps, and take those recommendations.
Well, that was pretty insightful from Jack.
Hmm.
We didn't
Well
hear,
done, Jack.
we didn't actually hear that. So what we're gonna try to have going further, we're gonna try to have an interview on for Pippin. We'll publish this and we'll let you see because man, they are pretty hard at work, and I don't know why these actors aren't. They're putting so much effort into their talent that
I think
that
the
self
movie
promotion
stars.
is getting a bit lost on them. But you know, uh, they're working hard at it. It's gonna be we get this podcast out before there. It's gonna be Friday night, and Saturday night is gonna be that play. And now Cole has
New segment.
a new segment,
New segment.
new
I'd
segment on
hope
the
to like to
podcast.
keep going. Yeah. So this segment that I want to do is just called "Blow Your Mind," and
It's a
I'm just gonna be
reward for staying with us for this long.
yeah. I just wanna blow your guys' minds with a few, not too long facts about things, but they're very interesting. James, do you know what a quasar is, or a quasar?
Is it a type of Mexican food?
No, a quasar is very very different from a Mexican food. It's a phenomenon in space that only occurs near supermassive black holes. Ones that are large enough to fit
Big
that
big old black
standardization.
holes.
Yeah, yeah, very large, very
Big
very
boys.
large. And they give off energy that can be trillions of times brighter than the sun.
Right.
It's widely believed that they are the brightest thing we've ever seen in the universe.
Which is kind of funny with the whole like light can't escape from a black hole thing,
Yeah,
etc.
but yeah, they're near black holes. And you can't really see them with the naked eye just because of how far these are from us. But they're not at every supermassive black hole, but they're at them. That's what we know. So a quasar is caused by the orbital motion around a black hole when matter and energy from, let's say, like a star is spiraling in towards a black hole.
Have you ever seen Interstellar?
Yeah,
The one with Matthew
I love that
McConaughey,
movie.
and that's the
Yeah,
the really really blinding stuff that's going around the black hole all
I
the
don't
time.
know if that's a quasar, but
I'm gonna put a picture of that in the
yeah,
video
yeah,
right here anyway, just to kind of give him a
mhm,
view.
yeah, an idea.
So that's a quasar. It's a black hole. It'll kill you, and it's definitely not a delicious
Yeah, definitely not
Latin snack.
not like queso, if that's what you're thinking.
Definitely not.
So matter and energy from, let's say a star falls into this, this huge center of mass,
And
and
eventually, it's never gonna leave.
yeah, and so basically the black hole compresses that matter and energy into heat temperature, and it's basically spiraling around this black hole at such high speeds and such high temperatures that it's emitting this huge amounts of light, and that's why they're so bright. And one theory that physicists have is that they think that I don't personally believe this, but they're physicists. They're good at they're
Hey,
pretty
hey,
good at math.
they gotta believe stuff for a living.
Yeah, they actually believe that quasars are the opposite of a black hole. In fact, they bring matter into the universe while black holes take it out.
Well, that's kind of silly. That's not how a sun
Yeah, I know
works.
that's not how
A
physics
sun
works.
is a sun is in a circle, and it's supposed to be putting stuff together. And
Yeah.
then when it blows up, it's a black hole. That's
So
whatever.
they think that these defy the laws
Maybe
of
they're
physics.
maybe they're canceling each other out or something.
Yeah.
So what's our next blow your mind fact?
So the
I feel
next
like you've got
thing,
more than one of these
it's
going.
actually kind of a story.
Oh dear.
It's about the life of this guy named Robert Smalls. You ever heard of him?
I'm pretty sure I haven't.
No.
Is he a quarterback?
Robert Smalls. He was born a slave in America in 1839. And once the Civil War started, in 1861, he was hired as a deckhand on the Confederate ship, the Planter. And the ship just carried supplies in
Right.
between certain Confederate forts.
Confederates aren't good at sailing. Here's some Northern pride.
Yeah,
for our
that's
listeners.
actually very true. Once I get you'll see that comes to truth later in this. And then on May the 13th, in the morning of 1862, all the officers and crewmen were sleeping in Charleston while the ship was parked outside. And in the morning, him, 8 other men, 5 other women, 3 other children, quietly drove the ship out of the harbor. He learned how to navigate previously while working on the ship, and he used those tactics to drive the ship out of the harbor. So after driving it out of the harbor, he had to stop through 5 Confederate checkpoints, right?
Right.
And basically, when you're there, you have to give up a signal like, "Yeah, we're all good."
Yeah,
Here's the
yeah, we're
signal.
Confederates, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all good.
And then he gave off the 5 correct signals. He saw them just from being a deckhand, and he drove it up into the north.
So they taught this guy how to evade their own system, and he pirated the ship.
Yeah, and he came upon the USS Onward, which was a Union ship,
Yeah.
and it was confused. It's like, what is this Confederate ship doing? So it almost actually fired upon his vessel.
And because they're still flying the Confederate flag, 'cause
Yeah.
you kind of have to do
And that was until he took down the Confederate flag and put up a white one.
Right.
And he gave up the ship to them. He was awarded as a hero. They found tons of munitions and Confederate war plans on the ship, and it helped out the North greatly. And because of this, Abraham Lincoln, well, it wasn't just because of this, but this helped Abraham Lincoln
Yeah.
decide to allow African Americans to be recruited into their military, the Union military.
So what did this guy do after he became
So,
a
yeah,
legendary
this is what
pirate
gets even
without
more
an eye
interesting.
patch?
Yeah, is when he was commissioned as a brigadier general.
Brigadier. Yeah.
Brigadier general in South Carolina, in the South Carolina militia, and he actually purchased his former owner's house
Oh,
in Beaufort, South Carolina.
that's like some Quentin Tarantino level
Yeah,
stuff.
This
That's
guy's life is literally
that's
a
awesome.
movie. And so he started a general store, a school for African American children, and a newspaper.
Cause that's what I would do.
Yeah,
Like if I had been that, I would go back and I would buy his house.
Mhm.
That's
He also
that's epic.
went on tours around the country talking about this experience, and then he raised a lot of successes in the world of politics, and he was elected to the South Carolina House of Reps and then later the state Senate. Between the years
As a Republican, yeah, I remember that. I think I got
between
that
the
point.
years 1874 and 1879, he served in the U.S. House of Representatives, and then he died of natural causes
Right.
in his home in Beaufort, South Carolina, February 23rd, 1915, at age 75.
After having been a pirate in the Civil
Mhm.
War.
A pirate, yeah, a former slave, former pirate, former general.
Former congressman.
Yeah.
So if any of you are are kind of wigged out by like my life will never amount to anything after high school, don't worry, there might still be opportunities for you to pirate a ship.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me for some reason
Mhm.
of it's also another kind of crazy story.
Yeah.
There was a guy from Korea named Yang Kyung-yong, I
Yang
think is
Kyung-yo-
how
yeah.
you say that. Please, for the love of God, I'm
I'm not
trying
sure
my
if you-
best. So he's born in 1920. He's stolen into the Japanese army. He gets captured by the Japanese, so he has
Yeah.
to fight with them as a Korean.
Oh, so he's fighting with the Japanese?
He fights with the Japanese. The Japanese fight the Russians in 1939.
Mhm,
He gets
yeah.
captured by the Russians. The Russians send him to the Eastern Front. In 1941,
So he's fighting for the Russians?
in 1941, the Germans invade, and he gets captured by the Germans. The Germans put him in Normandy.
So
And
he's fighting for the Germans.
Yes, so now he's fighting in big quotation marks because this guy doesn't want to hold a gun ever again lest he get captured by somebody else.
So he's actually like when you say like he's working, like he's building stuff, or is he like
He's
fighting
like,
like with
I think
guns?
he's
Like he's
let's
a
see.
soldier.
Uh, yeah, they forced him to work um, on fortifications next
Oh,
to
okay.
Omaha Beach.
Yeah.
So he gets shelled by the Allies,
Wow.
captured by, let's see, the 506th Parachute Infantry Regiment of the
Uh-huh.
101st. Gets captured by them. And it's a little weird because you hit Omaha Beach and you expect to start talking to guys in German,
Yeah.
and then there's a one guy who looks different than everybody else, and somebody has to go through. Okay, does anybody know Polish? Anybody know Czech? The one guy goes, I can try Russian, and he speaks broken Russian. They figure out he's from Korea,
That's crazy.
allegedly, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, um,
So it's not like
historically,
confirmed.
historically, there's a theory that he was just a Korean that got captured by the Russians and then sent to Germany. But there's really no other explanation for a guy being born in Korea and then 5 years later, in the middle of a war zone, he's in
Yeah.
Normandy, like whacked out of his mind, and he doesn't know.
Oh, he had
Doesn't
PTSD.
know why. So after he's captured by the U.S., he goes to Illinois and he lives on a farm until his death.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
that's what a lot of German soldiers did when they got captured. They went and lived
right.
on the south. They never
But
wanted
these
to
guys
leave.
were never from Korea. Yeah, some of those guys never went home.
Hmm.
He is from Korea, so he definitely never goes home. He's like, nope,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah,
stay in
for
one
sure.
place
For
rest
sure.
of my life.
Especially
So
what
for the
happened
next
after. Yeah.
right, so the next 70 years he's just sitting on a
Yeah.
in a field in Illinois. Um, they made a movie out of him in South Korea.
Really?
Yeah. Um, so I think he might have been the first guy ever to have fought for all three of the
All three.
Axis powers
That's crazy.
no, not all three. Two of the Axis powers by accident, and the Red Army, and been captured by the Americans. So there's the other side of a Robert Smalls coin. That sometimes you can accidentally fall into things that are hilarious. So
So the last thing
last one.
I was going to talk about in this little segment was, I'm sure you're familiar with this, the Bronze Age collapse.
Yeah, nobody knows why that happened.
Yeah. So let me just set the scene. The year is 1250 BCE. You have the Greeks of Mycenae, the Minoan Empire, the Hittites of Turkey, the Babylonians of Mesopotamia, and the Egyptians of the Nile, all engaged in, international trade,
Having fun stuff. They're having
Yeah.
written language. They're
written
having
language,
art,
poetry, extremely powerful
eating
militaries,
bread,
written
got some
language, yeah.
palm trees.
Civilization's
The
thriving.
old Mediterranean,
Yeah.
having some fun.
And then by 1100 BC,
Boop.
all of a sudden, you see the civilized world, the civilized world in the Middle East just totally collapse.
Right.
You have pretty much people going from advanced levels of pottery to almost caveman levels of creating, like cups and things like
And
that.
there's like ruins everywhere.
Yeah,
and,
ruins everywhere, total loss in literacy. And that lasted. People were in that state. People say they went back, like, even like before the Bronze Age. Like, they went back to
They
like
went back like
caveman
1,000
civilization.
years.
Yeah, basically. And that they were living that life for about 400 years until everything was restored. And the main question behind this whole sudden change in culture
Is what the hell?
is what happened here. So there's a lot of theories, and the one that most people stick with, well, is that certain different catastrophes happen in different places. Like, it wasn't just one
Right.
smoking gun.
So somebody had an earthquake, and then the Greek got flooded.
Yeah.
And
So earthquakes, one of them, and then the other one is these people called the Sea People, which kind of creep me out.
right.
They found on the writings that Sea People came and basically kind of took everything away
So
from them.
it's probably not like 1950s horror movie and
Yeah,
these,
or
these-
Game
and
or
there's
Game of
these
Thrones.
yeah,
with
or the
White
White Walkers.
Yeah.
We might have to deal with White Walkers coming out of the ocean and then disappearing for no reason.
Yeah.
It's probably just a tribe from somewhere they'd never seen.
Mhm.
Might have been the Italians,
they
but
say
they
it was
can't
the,
find anything to support that.
The Mycenaeans, yeah. But there was also a lot of drought during the time, and
Right.
the social structure of these areas, of these civilizations. If you have no source of farm, like if you have basically the whole job of farming and they can't make any food, then the whole entire system of civilization is going to collapse.
Yeah, everybody's gonna die.
Yeah.
We're not on fun territories
Mhm,
there.
for sure. So yeah, I just thought it was so interesting just how dramatically things changed
So
in
if
their
anybody
lives.
figured out a time machine yet, and you can go back like 3,000 years, just
About yeah.
kind of fill us in on that because
Mhm.
we'd really like to know. And
Definitely would
so
be
would
appreciated.
the
Yeah.
entire modern study of history. That would be pretty great. uh, yeah, so that's pretty fascinating. So I think we're done for the day.
Yeah.
You got anything else to add on?
I don't got anything more, James. No.
Right. So that's all we've got for today. Thank you for sticking with us for a nice 30 minutes of podcast content. Yet
Great.
again, I'm James Vizza. This is Cole Kessler. This has been your Viking Voice podcast. And have a good weekend.